Everyone. The March 24th, 2026 Special Council meeting and public hearing is called to order at 4 o'clock. Council would like to acknowledge the Ucluelet on whose traditional territories the District of Ucluelet operates. Audience members and delegates are advised that this proceeding is being video recorded and broadcast on YouTube and Zoom, which may store data on foreign servers. Are there any late items? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adopt the March 24th, 2026 Special Council meeting and public hearing agenda as presented?
So moved.
Councillor Hoare, Councillor Anderson, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. Rules governing public hearing. In accordance with the Local Government Act, Council must hold a public hearing prior to adopting an official community plan bylaw, zoning bylaw, or amendment thereto, except where a public hearing is not required or is prohibited under provincial legislation, including where the proposed zoning bylaw or amendment is consistent with the official community plan and satisfies the criteria established by the province. At a public hearing, all persons who deem their interest in property affected by the proposed bylaws shall be offered an opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions on matters contained in the bylaw. The Council may give such effect as it deems fit to representations made at a public hearing in the bylaws as adopted. At a public hearing, the Council is under no obligation to enter into a debate on any issue. The purpose of a hearing is to hear public input, which will later be considered by the Council in their regular meeting. Following the public hearing, Council will not accept further communications or presentations from the public or the applicant respecting the bylaw. We will now conduct 4 separate public hearings on District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1382, 2025, District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1396, 2026, District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1398, 2026, and District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1401, 2026. At the conclusion of each hearing, the public hearing will be closed. Once the public hearing is closed, Council cannot accept further communications or presentations from the applicant or public respecting the proposed bylaw unless Council decides to hold an additional public hearing. The purpose of these hearings is to hear from the public before third reading of the bylaws. Council may consider amending the proposed bylaws based on input received at this public hearing. At a public hearing, all persons... Oh, I've said that already. At a public hearing, all persons who deem their interest in the properties affected by the proposed bylaws will be given an opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions on matters contained in the bylaws. However, all who speak must restrict their comments to the subject bylaws, and it is my responsibility to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. You will have 5 minutes to address Council for the first time, and staff will advise you at the 4-minute mark and when your time is up. After everyone has spoken once, those wishing to speak again will have an opportunity. After hearing submissions from members of the public, Council may ask questions to clarify what has been said. However, this is not a Q&A session or town hall meeting. Before we start the meeting, I'd like to take a few moments to remind those who are attending in person about the rules of decorum for all Council and committee meetings. Council meetings are a place where local democracy is carried out in a respectful, open, and safe environment. The Council chamber is also a workplace, and we are committed to maintaining a safe and respectful environment for Council members, staff, and members of the public consistent with WorkSafe BC requirements. In accordance with our procedure bylaw, disruptive or disrespectful behavior will not be tolerated. We ask that there be no cheering, jeering, or other interruptions from the gallery. This ensures that all speakers, whether members of the public, staff, or Council, can present their views without distraction, intimidation, or fear of ridicule. If a disruption occurs, those responsible will be asked to stop. Should the behavior continue, individuals may be required to leave the meeting, as permitted under Section 133 of the Community Charter. If necessary, Council may call a recess to restore order in the chamber. We appreciate everyone's cooperation in maintaining a respectful atmosphere. By doing so, we can ensure that this meeting and future meetings are productive and focused on the business of the municipality. Today, members of the public can participate in person or electronically. All speakers must state their name and address. I will now ask Ms. Pelchat, Deputy Corporate Officer, to further detail how the public may participate in this public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. All related materials, including the subject bylaws, are available for review on the back table and on the district's website. The public can participate in this hearing in person, by phone, via Zoom, or by emailing communityinput@ukulele.ca. To speak in person, raise your hand when the mayor calls for in-person speakers. The mayor will call on you when it is your turn. Please speak from the mic at the podium. To speak by Zoom, click the raise hand icon when the mayor calls for speakers via Zoom. When it is your turn, I will call on you by your Zoom name, so please enter it as your first and last name. To speak by phone, press *9 when the mayor calls for speakers calling in. When it's your turn, I will call on you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. Press *6 to unmute yourself. Any unpublished emails about the subject bylaws received at communityinput@ukulele.ca before the end of the public hearing will be read into the record. Please put the bylaw numbers in the subject lines and keep your emails short. Published correspondence will not be read. Thank you.
I now declare the public hearing for District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1382, 2025 open. This bylaw relates to the property at 560 Marine Drive. Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives, will now provide a brief overview of the bylaw. After the Director of Planning speaks, the applicant will have an opportunity to address Council, after which I will call 3 times for public input. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. Bylaw 1382, 2025 for 560 Marine Drive. To rezone the existing property, which very briefly currently allows for 6 residential units plus pub use, with a more comprehensive 4-lot development. The current zoning is mixed residential and commercial, which does include residential units and neighborhood pub. Its current state is it is a vacant parcel, and the OCP is neighborhood commercial. The proposal involves a 12-unit rental multifamily building, a 5-unit resort condo building, a 12-unit hotel, and a smaller scale than the existing zoning pub, restaurant, bistro use. The agent on behalf of the development proponent is also here to provide an overview on the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Does Council have any questions for staff? I just had one which you answered for us earlier today, the difference between what the existing zoning is and what the proposed zoning is. And I do have it here in case you don't have it.
Just for the specifics with relation to the amount of area?
That's right, yes.
Okay. I can pull that up and speak to it in a moment if you'd like.
I can go over it because I did print it out from what you sent me.
Okay.
The existing gross floor area allows for a neighborhood pub, which is 1,942 square meters, and 6 residential dwellings at 488 square meters for a total of 2,430 square meters. That's what the zoning is currently, correct?
Correct.
Yes. And the proposed total floor, gross floor area based on the this application, residential rental is 666 square meters, resort condo 975 square meters, hotel 776 square meters, pub 225 square meters, which is quite different from the 1,942 square meter one from the original application, or the original zoning, sorry. And so the total gross floor area, if this goes through, will be increased by 212 square meters, according to my calculations. from what you sent me earlier?
I think Your Worship, I think it would be reduced. Uh, sorry, I'd have to total the numbers here. I could do so. Well, if you wanted the applicant to present, I could total these numbers from earlier.
Yeah, I did the total.
Okay.
The existing gross floor area is 2,430 square meters total, and the proposed is 2,642 square meters, which if my math is right, it's 212 square meters.
That looks correct, Mayor. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So no other questions for staff from council? All right, would the applicant or the representative like to address council?
Thank you. I'd like to share my screen.
Oh.
Not letting me share my screen. Sorry. Okay, thanks. Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you. Apologies for the technical issues. I'm a bit of a Luddite myself, so I'm not sure what's going on. Staff does have a copy of the presentation on the laptop up there, so hopefully this will work. While we're waiting, my name is Nigel Gray. I'm with McDonald Gray Consultants. We're a small landscape architecture and planning firm located in Area G of the RDN, so just across the other side of the island. And I tried to drag the sunshine, but it was pretty rainy on the way over. Thanks. I don't know if you can make it any bigger than that, but perfect. So I've tried to make this presentation a little bit clearer than the one I've given to council the last two times. Next slide, please. So in terms of context, you can see the site we're talking about is directly kitty corner to where we are right now. So right across the street, flanked by Big Beach Park and the community center, as well as a Primera on the south side. I should note that the owners of this site actually own a unit in the Primera as well, which is why they bought the property to develop and build themselves a couple townhomes there, as well as a broader development. Next slide, please. So our vision, after working with staff, I started this back in 2020. We worked with staff up until the initial application and try to get the right mix, try to create kind of the highest and best use for this site for the people of Ucluelet based on your community plan and your policy documents and input from the planning staff as well. So our vision is 12 micro-residential rental apartments. So these would be meant to be attainable employee housing. As Tyler and I were discussing earlier, it's extremely difficult to make anything affordable anymore. So that's why I'm not using the word affordable. It'll be what it is after the build costs and the return on investment. The 5 townhomes, these would be the owners' units. There's 5 owners. They intend to stay in these units when they're out here in Ucluelet. 12 tourist accommodation units. These are the same footprint as the 12 micro residential apartments. So these are very small units, 400 square feet-ish. Neighborhood pub, which is already in existing use. The 2,400 square foot template you see in our development permit drawings are based on Fern and Cedar, which is a pub restaurant in Qualicum Beach. Next slide. So far, as I alluded to, up before March 2024, we were working with staff to come up with the right mix and the right development proposal. March 2024, we presented our initial vision to council and got some feedback at that time. We made our revisions, went away, spoke to all our technical consultants, and made sure our geotechnical, environmental, and everything else was working well with an overlay technique. In November, we made 2 concurrent applications. One's the zoning amendment, and borrowing planner speak, that's essentially to change the land use. So to add in those additional land uses, and the development permit is a permit. So it is the intent to develop. So the owner in this case has gone to development permit concurrently to prove and show that he fully intends to develop this site as soon as possible upon approval. Again, December 2025, we had a first council meeting, and that's where we achieved first and second reading, and we're referred to this public hearing today. Next slide, please. So in terms of community benefit, this has all been carefully designed and thought out. But in terms of Big Beach Park, we want to dedicate 20% of the property to expanding Big Beach Park. This will provide additional landscape buffering and a better setback from Big Beach Park related to, you can see Primera to the south. These will actually be set back a little bit more. There is a municipal storm infrastructure, and I don't have a pointer, but it runs along the pathway coming out off Matterson and into the park. So this will give the muni control of that stormwater function, as well as there's a tiny sliver of an archaeological site on the western side of the park. So this would preserve that archaeological site in perpetuity under public control. Next slide, please. Community benefit, again, the 12 rental units are meant to be small. They're meant to be attainable, and it's meant to be a housing solution for the local workforce. It's embedded within a neighborhood. I'm familiar with this neighborhood because I work on a bunch of projects in the area. It's great walking distance to the core. It's great walking distance to the beach. It's great walking distance to this facility right here. The owners are committed to restricting the rental use, and actually that's been locked into the bylaw language now, working with staff. Next slide, please. So this is an architectural visualization. So this would be, a couple hundred feet up on the other side of Marine Drive looking down on the project. I think the scale is a bit of an issue, so I've done a couple more slides on what the size of these buildings really are. This is a very small site, and these are small buildings. So kind of the biggest units on the entire side of the 5 townhome units located towards the water. Next slide, please. So in terms of where everything is on the site, the 12 rental apartments would be along Marine Drive, and I'll get you to kick the next slide. And just to give you a sense of what that's like, so there is no parking visible from Marine Drive. All the parking is under building, and that's twofold. The reason for that, mostly so we are above the tsunami warning level, and to keep the cars out of sight and kind of maintain that beautiful waterfront that you have here already. These are long-term rental only, and they're intended for employee housing, as I said before. Next slide, please. So these are the 5 owners' townhomes. These are waterfront, obviously. If you're the owner, you want the waterfront piece. And they all intend to own one of them and bring on another buddy to buy one of them. But next slide, please. Similar configuration, so 2 levels over parking. So the parking is at grade, but it's below the grade of Marine Drive. You can see on the bottom visualization, you wouldn't actually be able to see that. The trees in the park would actually block that entire view, but just so you could understand what the architecture looks like, that's what it looks like. So the townhomes are elevated. You don't see the parking. Next slide, please. The third piece is the tourist accommodation units. So as you can see, these are similar in size to the 12 rental apartments, and they are tucked in closely with the commercial component, which could be a neighborhood pub or bistro. Next slide, please. And a similar underground parking, under building parking scenario there as well. Again, this would be the view from Big Beach, but you wouldn't actually be able to see this building because of the trees the way you can see it right now. These are intended for short-term tourist accommodation, and it's 2 levels over parking. Next slide, please. So again, commercial space, pub, bistro, cafe, what have you. I'd love it to be a pub because I'd love to sit in this pub and have a drink as the project progresses. Next slide, please. Important to note that the buildings design here were meant to show a cohesive design approach to the entire site. This may change. The development permit we have in right now is for the first two buildings, for the micro residential units and the townhomes. Once we have an occupant for the commercial space, this design hopefully will stay the same, but it may be adapted to their needs in the future. So there'll be a future development permit coming in for the short-term rental and the pub bistro cafe feature. Once that moves forward. Next slide, please. So in terms of planning, coming at it from planning lens, as we're talking about land use today, we're not talking about the form and character of the buildings per se. This is a land use discussion. I just wanted to show kind of what our thinking is when we approach these developments. So what's the highest and best use for Ucluelet? What do your policies say? And are we doing the three-legged stool? Are we achieving the best we can on this site? So as I've alluded to earlier, that the park dedication preserves and enhances that foreshore environment. The attainable rental units hopefully will accommodate local employees. The park site also preserves an archaeological site, which is the social piece. And the neighborhood commercial allows for local employment on what I would call one of your more strategic sites for having a restaurant, bistro, or pub. There's not very many sites on Vancouver Island with commercial zoning where you can actually sit and overlook the water. Next slide, please. As Tyler alluded to, there are land uses already in place. So there are things that we aren't asking for, and that's the neighborhood pub. Right now, it allows for a 20,000 square foot neighborhood pub, which is ridiculous. You don't have nearly the population to accommodate that or the tourist numbers. It also allows for 6 dwelling units. There is some strange language in there. It's held over from a 90s development application wanting to have these dwelling units over top of a pub, which obviously nobody wants to live over top of a pub. So that was one of the reasons we took a second look at it. In terms of additive land uses, it's the 11 rental units, so the apartments, and the 12 boutique tourist accommodation units. And hopefully I didn't go on for too long. Thank you for letting me say our piece.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions for the applicant? That's a no? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Oh, Councillor Anderson?
Thank you for your presentation. Through the mayor, I was just going to ask what the one more time what the parking was. Is there basically one parking spot per unit? Is that what I was reading, or
Defer to your staff.
Pull that up for you in a moment, Councillor Anderson.
Sure.
Just screen shifting here.
On that note, just follow-up question. I'm just wondering what accommodations are made as far as parking for patrons of the pub.
Pub parking would be under building on the pub side, so it would be underneath the pub.
Thank you.
And I meant to say, like, the parking's based on your zoning bylaw parking requirements, and that's why I'm deferring to staff just in case that's changed.
Yeah, no, the parking requirements are the same. I'd have to pull them up for each use and calculate it here, but it would be consistent with any other pub use, residential short-term rental units within the district.
right. Excellent. Thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions. Thank you. We'll move on to the public input section of the public hearing. This is the first call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to address District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1382, 2025? Please raise your hand. Okay, we'll start with you. Yes, please. And then just state your name and address, please.
Oh, it's not on. I'm Kai Zilberman at 1450 Short Road, just up there. All right. I just want to say up front, this is something I'm passionate about, so I hope you'll excuse me for being a little bit blunt. I find the entire premise of this project to be utterly ridiculous. We've heard a lot of talk about this so-called housing project over the last few years, and a lot of flowery language about all the apparently wonderful things it will entail. But I want to talk for a moment about what this proposal actually is. It's some rich guy's personal private resort for them and their buddies. It's for vacation homes, which will be rented out to wealthy tourists when not in private use, supported by these so-called affordable housing units, which in reality are just going to be, as they said, sardines in a can staff accommodation for these guys' on-site servitors. They literally said to the Westerly News, or in the meeting that the Westerly News reported on, and I quote, they would be micro-residential units for employees. They also said as reported by that article, that they want to build it as their own private village. Does anyone here seriously think that this project will benefit the community in any way? I've seen the proposal, and we saw it again here. It calls for a pub and resort directly adjacent to the Big Beach access path. It calls for a, quote, large and expansive viewing deck overlooking the beach. Does anyone who wants to spend time in peace and in nature on the beach want drunken pubgoers stumbling around? Do they want upper crust vacationers staring down at them from their expansive viewing platform? You know what people really come to Big Beach for? What draws them to this town to spend their money at our businesses, to stay in our bed and breakfasts and in our hotels? Nature does. Big Beach is the star of that show. It's a sanctum of the natural world ensconced within the very center of our community. These developers want to destroy that. They want to take our most important natural sanctuary and turn it into just one more resort, one more personal, privatized land tract in an already vast sea of beachside lands people like this have been allowed to destroy. Have we learned nothing from what happened to Browns Beach? What we lost after the whole Odyssey Lane fiasco destroyed half of the Wild Pacific Trail. I struggle to understand why the council has even allowed this project to advance this far. Do they even have any idea about what our community is about? At most, I could see a small cafe or something similar on that corner. Have something that won't disrupt the peace and nature of the area, and build it small without encroaching much on the irreplaceable natural wonder that gives this town the very appeal they hope to exploit for massive personal profit, and which actual local businesses rely on to draw people here. If it were up to me, and I'd wager most people in this community, nothing would be built there at all. But if something is going there, it certainly won't be another resort as long as I have anything to say about it. Enough damage has already been done to this town by developers like this one without allowing this travesty of a plan to go forward too. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is anyone else in the audience wanting to speak? Will lady in the purple at the back?
Hello, I'm Sadie Doubt, and I live at Ucluelet Campground. A couple of questions, actually. One is a micro apartment where you shower over your toilet, and is there a bedroom in it? And who is it affordable for? I have a union job, but usually when I hear affordable housing, you think $3,000 a month, which I don't make. And so, yeah, those are my questions.
Thank you. This isn't really a Q&A session. We're just here
Okay.
to listen to your comments.
Anyway, yeah, okay. So, yeah, number one, what I need to say is that, I came out here a year ago because, people need home support in this area. There's a lot of seniors that need help, and I wasn't. I had to have accommodation before I could move here, and so I thought I would have accommodation by now. I have a place to live, so I can work here, but coastal Island Health does need more health workers here, and there's no place for us to live. So as far as any of the applications go today, the number one thing I'm thinking about is where will I and people who have always lived here live? And I think that's the most important thing. And it is nice to have accommodations for people who want to come visit and look at the scenery, because it is the most beautiful place in the world. But we don't want to be Tofino either, which is like so overrun by tourism. And I love it here. I've loved it here for 40 years, and Yeah, if we could just have places for working people to live, that would be awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else in the audience would like to speak? Yes, in the back there.
My name is Brent Halfyard, and I live at 1722 Rainforest Lane. First, want to thank you for letting us speak. It feels nice to be part of a community that is being listened to. It's very important. And as the first gentleman passionately put it, I kind of agree with it. I'm not going to go into a big diatribe, but out of this expansion, less than half is for local residents, so-called affordable housing. Yes, the owners want to build a luxury condo, and I think the size of it has just gotten out of control. These things are just getting too big. They don't benefit us as community members. What is good for the community? Literally, us who live here, taxpayers, contributing citizens. We're going to live for the rest of our lives, most of us. So out of 29 units, only 12 are micro units to be rented out. That's not good enough. A hotel is not needed. A pub is not needed. A restaurant, sure. All I'm saying is we need long-term housing, affordable housing. You heard it. We need healthcare workers out here. People do not have any place to live. Once that footprint is destroyed, you can't get it back. That is precious, precious ecosystem there. Rethink this. Think about the community, right? What do we need? We need long-term affordable housing that's good for the community, not short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anyone else that would like to speak from the audience? Sure, go ahead. Hand over the baby.
Hello, my name is Iman Makarami, 1796 Rainforest Lane. First of all, thank you again, like Brent said, for this session to get the public input. Yeah, I like to see a coffee shop or a pub there too, but let's think about it from a different angle. And here's a question. Of course, I'm not looking for an answer, but hoping that the city planning and the council consider this. This town, many of people in this town are counting on Airbnbs to make them to help them with the mortgage. The question is, have we done any studies on how increasing the number of short-term rentals in this project is going to affect the income of many of the families that are going to somehow get affected? Maybe it's minimal, maybe it's considerable. It's good to have that number included as part of the decision making, and also be communicated to the rest of the community. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Does anyone else in the audience wish to speak? All right, we'll move on to, oh, yes. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you bet.
S. Fuller, 477 Marine Drive. I wasn't expecting to speak, and I don't want to argue with some of the arguments put forward here, but I just want to give, if not a counter view, a counter tone. And I felt a little distressed hearing what seemed to me really insulting language towards our council and to the idea of resorts here. I know I see some of the staff here from staff and management here from BlackRock. It's something that I enjoy going to. I see it as a community facility, and I can see how another development might follow in those footsteps. So it's just I just felt that I needed to say something to counter the tone of what seemed to me sometimes antagonistically constructed. So I'm that's basically it, and I would hope that the council realizes that maybe some of the in the audience do not feel as antagonistically towards it. Thanks.
Thanks for your comments. Okay, Barb?
Barbara Schramm, 1958 Bay Street. I just wanted to add, it would be good if council could consider the cumulative effect of not just this development, but all the other proposals coming down the pipe for this area, the one across the street here, and just all the impacts to Big Beach. It's not just this one unit. So consider all of that. I'm also concerned about the access to the pub going down the path that goes to Big Beach, over the water course and into the property. Seems problematic to me to put a driveway down a public pathway. I'm also concerned that people will ignore underground parking in a convoluted access way and completely overwhelm the Wild Pacific Trail parking lot across the street, which is already full in the summer. So people just trying to go to the beach are going to have a heck of a time because they'll be full up. And also this community parking lot would also be burdened with any overflow. I just think the density of the proposal is over the top when you add it up with everything else being developed in the area. Big Beach is going to suffer oversupply of use. So that's my concern. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Yes, Rich, go ahead.
I'm Rich Parley from 1211 Eber Road. I'm a long-term resident of Ucluelet. Came here to have a job for 1 year, and I got stuck here. Now I am 58 years later, and very happy about it. With regards to the proposal, I may be talking about other proposals, but what you were saying applies to me, I feel. So with regard to the proposed amendment to the bylaw number 1160 to accommodate McDonald Gray Consulting, I am absolutely opposed to the amendment. I would enjoin council to keep the existing amendment, please, if for no other reason than to keep us from going into this territory, which has been articulately talked about by others. The one you're all talking about, I feel the same. I want to council to not change this bylaw until some proposal is made that is truly in favor of affordable housing, that will preserve the existing conditions, like the beautiful ambience of Big Beach, the park. That has a lot of memories for a lot of us. And so I say, please don't mess with it. And the idea of a pub and little boutique houses, I am not at all impressed, and I don't like it. And I feel that the existing bylaw serves the basic and recreational needs of us town folks. We're pretty happy with it. And I believe that to the council, I would respectfully say, I think your duty, first of all, is to serve the local people who voted for you and who like you and who work with you and who will support you. Please don't just cater to wealthy tourists from far off cities. And thank you for giving this opportunity to talk.
Thanks for your comments. Anyone else in the audience before I move on to Zoom? We'll take first time speakers first, if that's okay. Okay, go ahead.
My name is Robert Gallagher, 760 Marine Drive. I came here with eyes wide open, expecting not to say anything. And I'm the type of person that can't keep my mouth shut. My wife and I came here in May to have a vacation, and we bought a house. And we now have been here for 6 months, and we're looking forward to immersing ourselves in the local community. One main reason that drew us here was the rainforest, the greenscape. and just the lushness of the surroundings. And I'm looking at this site and for the first time actually visualized it on the presentation. I believe the entire site is plus or minus 5 acres. Is that about correct? I'm just curious what the clear-cut gross area would be once all of the trees and growth is removed for construction. Because based on that drawing, it appears that you might have 20% of that green space left after this development takes place. The other question was the height of the project and whether or not there would be any visual obstruction from the neighborhood and neighbors to the east looking out over Big Beach. And the third question to keep in mind is the micro staff rentals. If I'm understanding it correctly, that would be for the staff of the accommodations. Is there any allowance for other long-term rental for other employees and people that work in the community? Some clarification on those items might be appreciated. Thank you.
I believe the applicant is still here, so you're most welcome to chat with him outside if you like, or if you'd like to respond, go ahead.
Thanks. I just wanted to clarify, those units are for anyone. They're not dedicated to any specific industry or operation here. And I also wanted to note that the property we're talking about has already been cleared. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thanks for clarifying that. All right. Anybody else in the audience? There will be a second and a third call, but maybe we'll just go on to Zoom. Oh, we've got, okay, a new speaker.
One quick thing to mention in regards to the pub, there's a lot of kids in that area riding bikes, going to the community center here, playing basketball, skate park. In town with all those businesses and brewery, kind of centralized downtown, and not a lot. The kids are kind of aware when they're down there. But here, if you have a lot of traffic coming going from a pub and kids rolling around their bikes, that's something that causes me some concern, and I'd want to at least be considered whether that's what we want in this location. Thanks very much.
Thanks for your comments. Councillor Noel, did you have something?
Yeah, I did. I wasn't able to hear him. The sound changed quickly when that last speaker came up.
Yeah, the mic was kind of iffy at the beginning there.
I didn't hear any of it. It was quite low, so I imagine I'm not alone. If you don't mind repeating yourself, thank you.
The mic was off.
Okay.
Oh.
Thank you. The gist of my comments was the area where the proposed pub is going to be on Big Beach. There's a lot of kid traffic down there. Kids riding bikes, going to the basketball court, skate park, community center, going down to the beach. In town, where we have the pub, the brewery, and all the businesses and lots of the car traffic, kids are kind of aware when they're in that area. And but my concern is that if you put a pub with lots of cars coming and going on Big Beach, where there's tons of kid traffic, especially in the summer, that I think that's a concern that I would have. Is that an appropriate place for that type of business? Does it increase risk to particularly kids that are using the area a lot? Just something that I would want to be considered.
Thanks again. S, you had a second comment?
I just want to add to what I was saying. I recognize all the problematics around this.
Just speak into the mic, please.
Oh, sorry. I recognize all the problematics around this, around housing and children, and around the area. But it also seems to me that there are places like Blackrock that have two particular places that people can drink, and it doesn't look as if it's out of control. So I would imagine that it could be mindfully done. But one of the things I'm thinking of, Councillor Mafty and I were at the same meeting this morning of the tourism and plus the Tofino Town Chamber of Commerce. And some of the speakers there came from the Tribal Park Allies, which I just think is a wonderful conceptualization of mindful development. And I was just wondering whether we could throw some of those practices that are clearly working very well about a lot of the tourism that's here, because there's a little bit of a conversation about the tourists and then there's us. And I'm just wondering whether we could maybe think more that the tourists are partly part of our community and enable us to do things that we just wouldn't be able to do if this wasn't part of that thinking. And as well as I believe you will all know more, it is we are, as I understand it, a resort municipality, and tourism comes into that play. So I was just thinking if maybe we could throw into this mix something like the Tribal Park Allies and build finances and equity from the tourism income. So not so much them and us as, us all together. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. All right, maybe we'll see if there are any members of the public attending by Zoom that wish to speak. Click the raise hand icon.
We have Michel Sergio that I will allow to talk. Mr. Sergio, you can talk. Mr. Sergio, you may unmute yourself and speak. We can't hear you.
Maybe we'll go on to the next speaker, or is there anyone else with their hand raised?
Not at the moment, Mayor.
Oh, hello, everybody. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, my apologies. There was different windows popping up on my computer. May I start again, please?
Sure.
I'll be quick. Hello, my name is Michael Sergio, or as was very eloquently said, Michelle Sergio, depending on what language we want to talk, from 554 Marine Drive. Yes, that is the Primera. So I'm very aware that some of my comments may be received with maybe raised eyebrows. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's already spoken. I think all of the comments that have been made are very fair and relevant to this particular proposal. I'd like to focus on just one aspect of it. And similar to the first speaker, I fear that my comment might be a tad blunt, but it has to do with a pattern of rezoning applications in Ucluelet and how this particular application really reinforces it, which is that developers purchase property knowing what the property is already zoned for. And yet, in almost every instance, there's usually a very aggressive rezoning application where the developer takes a stance of what's best for them. Now, I appreciate the language earlier by the proponent that consideration for the community was made. With all due respect, this proposal is very opportunistic by the owners. If you look at it through the lens of what's right for Ucluelet, the land is zoned commercial, residential. Somewhere within the boundaries of that and a reasonableness protecting the rights and use of Big Beach for the entire community is where it should land. The current proposal is entirely focused on creating, in my opinion, a self-funding vacation property for the owners as witnessed by the location of their units. And I would suspect by the ownership of the other elements of the property and the revenue generated by that. Now, aside from taxes, where's the interest to the community in all of that? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other speakers on Zoom?
Not at the moment, Mayor McEwen.
And are there any speakers calling in? Press star 9 if you wish to speak.
No speakers, Mayor.
All right, and we do have written input on the agenda, including the late items. Have we received any unpublished correspondence about the bylaws?
We have. If I may, I will read them. So the first email we have received is from Zach DeCorso. The title is Leave Big Beach Alone. No need for the development above Big Beach. I strongly disagree and hope you honor mine and many, many other community members' wishes. Sent from my iPhone. The next one is from Mike Grandbois. The title is Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1382. Dear Mayor and Council, I write today to express my concern and strong opposition to the proposed zoning amendment bylaw number 1382 for the property at 560 Marine Drive. While I am not opposed to the original plan for the lot as it was zoned for the pub and 6 residential dwelling units, the request to develop the property with an almost 5-fold increase in the number of rental units is absurd. Big Beach is a community gem with residents and visitors enjoy year-round. Slamming a pub and 29 units of rental accommodation on that lot would have a significant and irreversible negative impact on Big Beach. A 5-fold increase in rental units means 5 times the parking, 5 times the traffic, 5 times the water, 5 times the waste, 5 times the environmental impact, and 5 times more impermeable surface. All of this strain on a community that is in no way prepared to handle it and with finite resources barely able to support its current needs. I implore council to reject this proposal and remind the developer of the original zoning for the property they purchased. Entertaining these zoning amendments can lead to dangerous precedents where the density and purpose of every development, regardless of their proposed use and zoning, will be up for debate. Ucluelet does not need another dense resort-style development adjacent to Big Beach. End of story. Please do the right thing and reject the proposed zoning amendment bylaw number 1382 to ensure the protection of our beautiful Big Beach. Respectfully, Mike Grandbois. The next email that we've received is from Colin Robinson, and the title is Big Beach Development. Hey, planning team, I know the power of private property rights is real, and there have definitely been struggles with DOU trying to find that balance between what's good for the town and what's actually feasible for developers. That said, I am nervous about the impacts of the development proposed for that corner lot 560 Marine Drive. In a dream world, that private lot would just be part of the municipal park. It's so hard when residents get used to and develop private lots serving the function of municipal park, natural assets, green space, buffer zones, etc. But now we have this issue where it's not just a couple neighbors who feel the impact, but the whole town, given the high-profile location. Part of me wonders if this is just the inevitable trajectory of development, like how all rural, remote, down and out post-resource towns must become staticized, commercialized, and sold off to external developers. Because hospitality and tourism is a diffuse industry based on real estate development and private property rights, it's hard to manage the impact-benefit balance. So thank you, Planning Department and Council, for trying your best. The Primera condos adjacent door to 560 Marine did a reasonable job maintaining the character of the natural Big Beach while still achieving the developers' ROI goals. Hopefully we can do this at 560 as well. Also, regarding the pub, I love beer as much as the next guy, but I don't know if we need another drinking establishment in town. District of Tofino has done a lot of work in partnership with the Island Health around alcohol, substance use, and the association with resort tourism and economy. This spring, they're actually launching a community alcohol strategy. DOU can definitely learn from this, as DOT is basically just like 10 years ahead of UKI on the H&T economic development curve. Cheers, Colin Robinson. The next email that we have received is from Eric L'Espérance. Eric L'Espérance. Hello. I strongly oppose the development on Big Beach. That area is special. That adds to the charm of Ucluelet. It's one of the top things people suggest to tourists and provides a respite from the center of town. I don't think turning Yuki into Tofino is a good thing. Stand up to preserving what makes Yuki Yuki. P.S. The architecture is terrible. Zero creativity. As a solution, perhaps we can crowdfund a purchase of the property and donate it back to the city. I would be willing to help explore this option and perhaps fund a portion of that. Eric Lesperance. The next one is from Sophie Vanderbank. Dear Council, the title is Bylaw Zoning 1382, 2025 Zoning Amendment. Dear Council, we don't need another short-term rental. We have a housing issue. We need more housing for folks living and working in our community. Big Beach is also a unique wildlife area. Every year there is a molting elephant seal on the beach, on Big Beach for at least a couple of weeks. Adding tourist accommodations will increase traffic on this beautiful beach, which will negatively affect wildlife. If you want to have a drink at Big Beach, go to Black Rock, literally next door. They have a great bar, restaurant, and unless I'm mistaken, it's pretty dead and empty in the winter. Thank you for your consideration of our community and for your time today. Sophie Vanderbank. And that's all. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, we have stacks of emails right here. And be assured we've read them all. So this will be our second call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to the District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1382, 2025? No, seeing none. Okay, she's leaving, not coming up to the podium. All right, just checking. Are there any speakers on Zoom?
Yes, we do have one speaker on Zoom, Mayor Rick Carrasco. I will now allow you to speak. You may now speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
If you speak up, yes.
Yeah, hi. I live at 554. I have a place at 554 at the Primera as well on Marine Drive. And we love Ucluelet. We fell in love with it. We bought a place at the Primera. Wife and I hope to live there permanently someday, but right now we got 1 foot in Vancouver and 1 foot in Ucluelet. I just want to echo Michael's comments. I thought the original zoning was reasonable, but this one looks like it's totally in favor of the 5 owners. It's blatant. It's for their benefit. It's not for the benefit of the community. That's the only comment I want. I mean, it's plain as day, right? It's for their benefit. That's the only comment I'm going to make.
All right, thank you. Do we have anyone else on Zoom? Ms. Pelchat?
Not at the moment, Mayor.
And are there any speakers calling in?
No, Mayor.
And have we received any additional written public input?
Neither. Thank you.
All right, this will be the third call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to the bylaw? Yes, please.
Yeah, Peter, am I on? Peter Spindler, 1708 Rainforest Lane. I haven't even looked at this because I'm here for another proposal. But anyways, what I see, as one of the speakers said before, is a master's class in economics. So where you buy a property, change the zoning, raise the value, and then you put your own, I guess, apartments in it, which you can write off as a business expense. Then you have your own restaurant and pub where you go, spend your own money. And yes, you're supplying, I guess, micro housing for 12 people, but I assume this is going to be at market value again. It's not going to be something that's really affordable for somebody who's making a small wage. So what I see here again is a lot of benefit for the owners because they can have their resort paradise on a property that's been hugely increased in value and write it off as a business expense. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Any other members of the public attending in person that wish to speak? This is your last chance. No, seeing none. Ms. Pelshad, are there any speakers on Zoom?
No speakers, Mayor.
And are any speakers calling in?
No, Mayor.
And have we received any new emails about this bylaw?
We have not.
Okay, I now declare the public hearing for District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1382, 2025 closed at 5:01. I now declare the public hearing for District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1396, 2026 open. This bylaw pertains to the warehouse or home occupation. Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives, will now provide a brief overview of the bylaw. After the Director of Planning speaks, the applicant will have an opportunity to address council, after which I will call 3 times for public input. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be very short on this one. It is a very straightforward application. Home occupation is a use that is permitted as a secondary use, and obviously the principal use would be residential in almost all residential zones within the Ucluelet zoning bylaw. For whatever reason, we've been unable to identify why, for any reason, for its exclusion as part of the CD 5C and CD 5E zoning bylaw. It was brought forward by the property owner to rezone to simply permit that home occupation use and be consistent with the rest of the residential zones within Ucluelet. After the close of the public hearing, council would be in a position to consider third reading and adoption of this bylaw. And with all these the 4 on the agenda tonight, I'll just make note right now that all the previous staff reports that were part of the public hearing package that was offered, notified and available to any member of the public that wished to view it prior. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions for staff? Councillor Anderson?
Through the mayor, I just wanted this was essentially just basically an oversight or a mistake, I think, essentially, right? Almost all single family dwellings in Ucluelet have this home occupation, and this was just missed out. It's like a clerical type error. Am I correct on that?
We believe so. From what we can tell, there's no reference to it any intention of it being excluded. No intention at all that we could find one way or the other. So it leads us to believe it was simply an oversight at the drafting of the zoning.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? This is a pretty straightforward one. Would the applicant or their representative like to address council? Ms. Gray?
Judy Gray, 234 Tofino Ucluelet Highway. This came up and came to our attention when we launched the subdivision for sale, and a number of buyers asked if they were still able to do their home-based business.
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
It came up when these lots came on the market for sale, and we realized that it wasn't in the zoning as it is in most other zones in the community, and asked for it to be added because many buyers were asking if they could still do their home-based business in this location.
So it's a housekeeping thing. Thank you. So we will, any questions from council? No. So we'll move on to the public input section of the public hearing. This is the first call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to address District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1396, 2026? Seeing none, are there any members of the public attending by Zoom that wish to speak?
No, Mayor.
And are there any speakers calling in?
No speakers.
And have we received any unpublished correspondence?
We have not.
All right, we'll go to the second call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1396, 2026? Seeing none, are there any speakers on Zoom?
No, Mayor.
And are there any speakers calling in?
No speakers.
And have we received any additional written input?
We have not.
All right, third call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to this bylaw? Seeing none, are there any speakers on Zoom?
No speakers.
Are there any speakers calling in?
No, Mayor.
And have we received any new emails?
We have not. Thank you.
Right, I now declare the public hearing for District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1396, 2026 closed at 5:07. All right, I now declare the public hearing for District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1398, 2026 open. This bylaw pertains to 604 Rainforest Drive. Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives, will now provide a brief overview of the bylaw. After the Director of Planning speaks, the applicant will have an opportunity to address council, after which I will call 3 times for public input. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to council. The amendment bylaw number 1398, 2026 was an application put forward by the development proponent for 604 Rainforest Drive to allow for a 3-story mixed-use building. The top 2 stories would be used for long-term residential use, and the bottom stories would be 6 units that could be either used for short-term rental or long-term use if the zoning proceeds. The amendment bylaw relabels the subject property to remove commercial from that label. But in summary, as I just outlined, the proposed development could contain up to 6 short-term rentals if the zone is approved. I think this property is well familiar to a lot of people, but it is currently vacant with the exception of a failed concrete foundation. This was built after a previous zoning amendment for a healthcare office, which also did not materialize. The package has been provided to council as part of this agenda, and the public hearing package includes the previous staff reports. And after the close of this hearing, council would be in a position to provide the amendment bylaw if it chooses, 3rd reading and adoption, and staff would also recommend at that time the removal of a covenant associated with the previous proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. And that covenant stipulated that a medical center had to be built there on the.
Yes, it was very much tied to that proposal.
Does council have any questions for staff? No, we'll now move on to the applicant presentation section. Would the applicant or their representative like to address council? Mr. Cole?
This is cool. Hi, Doug Cole, 1749 Larch Road. I'm the architect of record on the project, and maybe a little history would be helpful. And going back to 2022, Ian Kennington, who's a counselor here, did the initial design on this project, and it was Nick Killens as the owner and builder going out on a limb and going after the VHA clinic. And he took a big risk, and we started construction without that contract in place. And as you know, it didn't work out that way. But also what sort of happened, not sort of happened, it happened in August of 2023, the concrete failed. We have testing that's done on a regular basis with our engineers, et cetera. The concrete failed. The building could not continue. So unfortunately, that's why it has sat years as legal and insurance and other people argue about what happens next and who's responsible for that. In the meantime, Nick came forward and asked me, what could we do for a housing solution here? So we looked at what we could do. We have the townhomes, which are on top of what was to be the clinic, which was to be an 8,000 square foot clinic, by the way. And the layout of those worked well. And those were to be used for potentially long-term or even short-term nightly rentals as a condition of part of the covenant of having a medical clinic. Well, with that gone, we've put a proposal forward to have it to be all housing. 6 of the units would be the 2-story townhomes as they are designed, and to be long-term rental, no short-term allowed. And underneath where the clinic would have been, we've reduced the square footage footprint of the building by 4,000 square feet, and having those as 1-bedroom garden suite type apartments or nightly rentals, excuse me. And the location being right across the street from the trails, it seems like a good potential use for that lower level. There'll be no commercial, et cetera. In addition, the building itself, because of the height requirements needed for the ceiling, this hat following me around, the height requirement for the ceilings of a commercial use were such that I designed the building to be literally 2 centimeters underneath the 10-meter height limit. Well, without having the commercial use, we brought that down over 2.5 meters in height. So that's great. And we also reduced the footprint of the area on the site by 4,000 square feet. So as you have all seen the site, the reason it's been cleared to the extent it was because of the required parking, the access roads, and everything else, the building footprint, to utilize it for the use that it was permitted for. We don't need that anymore, so we can regreen that space and claim back a lot of that. So I had all these notes, I didn't even look at them. Okay, but in summary, it no longer contains any commercial uses. It's all residential. And yes, there is short-term, and I know there's a lot of anger about short-term rentals and nightly rentals in the community in some sense, but it seems to be a really good location for it to us and the owner because it's right across the street from the beach and the trails. And then you will have permanent residents up above. And as a side note, I'm working with Chief Geddes to try to remove the loop road that goes around the west towards the single-family residential on the side so we can green that space back up. We had to have that as a part of the emergency access when it was a commercial building, and it's no longer that way. So that's what we're working on, and happy to answer any questions, but that's about it.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Cole from council? Councillor Anderson?
Thanks, Mr. Cole. Through the mayor, I just had a quick question about square footage. So it's 6 and 6, and I'm just trying to get my head around, is the square footage in total for the long term or the residential on the top, is the total square footage greater than the 6 on the bottom, or is it equal?
There are 3 levels of equal square footage. The upper level, though, has 2 levels. So that would be a total of 6,000 up above.
Right.
So 2,000. And then the level below would be, it's the same exact footprint that runs down 3 stories.
Right.
So,
okay, excellent. Thank you.
so it's about 4,000 square feet less than it was in the original design.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Cole? Okay. All right. So now we will move on to the public input section of the public hearing. No, we're moving on to the public input section now. And if someone has a question for the applicant, that would be the time to ask it. So this is the first call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to address District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1398, 2026? Yes, Brent, please.
Hi, Brent Halfyard again, 1722 Rainforest Lane. So, what can I say about 604? We moved in. 3 weeks later, the trees came down. We knew it was commercial development. We didn't expect that kind of deforestation. It was devastating. The original meeting, I was here by Zoom 2022. The public opposed the expansion of the original lot size, of the original building size. It went through anyways. So bigger is not always better, as you can see. It's a disaster. Residential units are great. I think that we still only need long-term rentals. Condos, it's great that tourists want to come to the beach. We know we need long-term rentals, without a doubt. The building is going to go up, whatever I say or not, but I live across from this thing. So every day I look at that. So more units, more traffic, as we know, more disruption in the community. That's the community initiative. But for me personally, we've been staring at it every day for 2.5 years. It is a disaster. It's an eyesore. It's a red flags all over it. Okay. Now, in order for this to push forward, I suggest strongly that the owners, whoever they may be, if it's Nick or current developers, flatten the site, demolish it, clean it up first, get your funding in place and present a new plan. You can't leave it there. It's an eyesore. It's a disaster. It's dangerous. It's an embarrassment to the community. Red flags everywhere. I also read that the applicant needs to get pre-sales in order to fund this thing. So that means how many more years that thing is going to sit there? It's not a condominium market right now. People are not buying. The economy is changing. We need to take care of local residents first and local residents only. And just to cap it off, 2024, there was a big, massive storm, if you remember, in November. We lost 6, 7, 8 trees at least, right? And they were dangerous trees. Many of them, a couple of them came from 604 and fell onto our property. I tried repeatedly to contact Nick, and I'd been talking to him during the building of this property. He was pretty amenable with me, and he did not answer my calls. I was looking for a little compensation for my $3,800 bill to pay the tree fallers, and some of those trees fell from their property. No compensation, no phone call, no communication. That's not a community to me. Nick does not live here. We live here. I look at this every single day. This is our forever home, and I love it there. I want green space brought back. You mentioned that. I want to talk to you more about that after the meeting. I want to see the footprint. I want to know what's going on there. We lost trees because of the deforestation, and as you know, the more trees you take down, the more trees are going to come down. So I reject this proposal. I think that it is an atrocity. There's been too many red flags, a concrete failure. It should have been cleaned up years ago. 2.5 years now it's been. That should be cleaned up first and foremost before anything is done. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Are there any other members attending in person who wish to speak? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Elke Spindler. I live at 1708 Rainforest Lane. I do not like to public speak, so you guys have no idea how much courage this is taking me. But um, so I just want to bring up some of the past to Mr. Cole because he may not know. The initial zoning on 604 Rainforest Lane was to allow a 6,000 square foot building. We moved in to the property 10 years ago. The developer, Nick Killens, who bought the property, wanted it rezoned to 2.5 times its size to 15,603 square feet. In the condition, and I thank the council for doing this, putting a covenant in place that a medical building had to go on the bottom floor. Now, there's a catastrophic failure. My understanding is the concrete foundation has to come down no matter what, because it's failed. Now Nick Killens is struggling because it's a failure and he needs to recoup some of his funds. And in his own letter to the planning department, he specifically states that the 6 one-bedroom units on the ground floor are for nightly rental use, not for long-term rental. I'll just say that to you. And I feel that because living in Ucluelet, affordable housing is a big issue. This developer is not addressing affordable housing, full-time rental, or employee housing. I can tell you for a fact that a 2-bedroom townhouse with den on the top floor is not going to come into the affordable housing price. That'll be for people who can afford it. So what I think council should look at, maybe keep the medical covenant in place, because a person from Island Health was saying they cannot find accommodations here. Wouldn't it be great to put 6 units for Island Health for a specialist who, we all need specialists in this community. I know how long it takes to see a specialist who has a place to live, or to stay. And they could work out of the medical clinic and see patients here in town, and they have a place. So that's one suggestion. Keep it for medical purposes, employee housing for Island Health, because we do need that in place for specialists who come in town so they have accommodations. The other thing is, if you are going to approve Nick's proposal, I think what would be awesome is that those bedroom units be kept for affordable housing. I know tons of people who would love to have a 1-bedroom unit, a place that they can live that comes in at affordable housing pricing or as long-term rental. Do not allow it become nightly rentals. And the bottom line is the responsibility of the mayor and the council is to look out what's best for the community of Ucluelet, not for individual developers, not for allowing rezoning continuously. You buy into community, you know what the zoning is, it changes, and OCP, our official community plan, isn't kept in consideration, and developers are applying and getting the zoning in place. So please keep in mind what is the full-time goal is the well-being of the community. Look at the residents, look at what we want here. We need affordable housing. We don't want more vacation rentals in a condo resort. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Oh, sorry, one more thing. Just when the initial rezoning of the 6,000 square feet to the medical building zoning, there was so much input put in the community, no one wanted it. But I spoke publicly there too, because I really am passionate about this project. I think it would have been great if it would have left that way. We would have a great green space. But I think the council has to listen to the residents here. No one cared really about our input there. And I was aware we do need a medical clinic, but there was an alternative suggestion. So please make the decision for the community. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Are there any other members of the public attending in person who would like to address this bylaw? Okay, we got Judy put her hand up first.
Judy Gray, 2349 Tofino Ucluelet Highway. No opinion, just some clarification of fact. The covenant that's on the property right now is there needs to be a doctor in the commercial space down below in order to allow there to be nightly rental permitted in the two-story townhomes above the medical, what was going to be the medical clinic. It isn't to restrict that commercial space to being a medical clinic. So currently, if it is commercial with the covenant, and we've checked this with legal, and there is opinion about it, like anything legal. Anybody that has a DR in front of their name, it could be a dentist, it could be a cosmetician with a doctor's degree that does Botox and whatnot. It could be any doctor down there that would allow those 6 units to go as nightly rental. With this redesign, those 1-bedroom units on the lower level can be either nightly rental or vacation rental, and the parking lot shrinks significantly, and that area that was cleared for that large parking lot will be greened up. And getting the road out from along the side of the building that seems unnecessary will allow for additional trees and green space to be restored and remediated in that location. Those 6 two-story townhomes are no different than the ones on Rainforest Lane or the ones across the street we call the birdhouses. So they're be very similar in price, similar in size, almost identical in size, in fact. So just a little different and no more nightly rental facing residential homes.
Thanks, Judy, for your comments. Could we get some windows open, please? It's getting really hot in here. Okay, are there any other members of the public? Yes, you put your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Peter Spindler, 1708 Rainforest Lane. So I'm basically for this project. I would like to see, affordable long-term housing, especially underneath. But my main concern is it's a very basic building. This is my question to the architect. It's about the most basic structure you could have. I'm just wondering, prominent space in the community, why can't we have something nice? That's it.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anyone else attending in person who wish to address this bylaw? Yes, go ahead.
Tom Grosier, Birdhouse with the Red Door. Being right across from it, I was just curious to ask Doug about for more detail about the tree line, or if it's the appropriate form of the green space, so the green trees that are going to be replaced, because it will kind of directly affect visibility into like all the upstairs kids' bedrooms in our complex. So I'm not sure if this is the right forum for whether there's going to be, or the right place to ask whether there's going to be trees along Marine, and maybe what that looks like around the entire property, because it was really sad to see them all go, or if that's best asked outside. But if you can address that here, that'd be awesome.
Mr. Cole, do you wish to reply? Or would you prefer to do it outside? Okay.
So there's a landscape plan that's submitted with the application, and the application now shows the loop road around to the west side, which denudes all trees essentially that are already gone. However, along the marine side, there is now additional space to reforest and to regrow along that side. And if we can work with Chief Geddes to create two separate parking lots, one which would be the upper one for the long-term residents and a separate lower one for the short-term rentals or nightly rentals, we then can open up the entire west side for revegetation, which we can't right now. So that's a little bit in process, but the idea is there is about 1/4 of an acre now that wasn't there before to green up. So details on that would be forthcoming through building permits and other things. I'd be happy to share that with you as we develop it. Sorry.
Great, thank you. Yes, Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to be very clear that the decision before council for the community, so the community understands, is simply the zoning amendment, which deals with the use and the density and not the design. That would be appropriately dealt with through the development permit process. So the plans included within the zoning amendment package were only presented to show density viability with respect to that the design could be incorporated. Obviously, the development proponent has a certain intent and is going along, but I just want to be very clear that can always change until the development permit is reviewed and approved. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Are there any other members attending in person that would like to speak? You'll have 2 more chances, but maybe we'll go on to Zoom. Are there any people on Zoom that wish to speak?
No, Mayor.
And are there any speakers calling in?
No speakers.
And have we received any written input, including late items?
We have not.
All right, we will do a second call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1398, 2026? Yes, Brent.
Again, Brent Halfyard, 1722 Rainforest Lane. Thank you again, Council. I want to mirror what a lot of people have said is we want to be listened to. And the sentiment around the community recently, and I was in this camp, was that why come to these meetings? Why write a letter? You don't listen to any of us ever. What's the point? This is what's happening. And if I was on council, I'd be concerned if that was the sentiment. But I do feel things are changing. The last couple of meetings that I was at, it really felt like the community stood together and you listened to our needs and our wants. This should be about the community, not about developers. Now, 604, imagine us living here just over 3 years, and 2.5 of those years is staring at Armageddon. It is a hellhole. It's a disaster. I have to explain it when my parents come. People come to visit. What's happening there? Oh, it's a disaster. I'm sorry. So yes, it needs to be developed. I do believe that. We want to get something going. I'm slightly encouraged by the addition of green space. I need to see some plans, but I agree that unless you're going to put a medical center in there or a dentist, which we badly need, just ask any parent, it should be all long-term rentals. That's the community benefit. Short-term only benefits a developer because there's a lot of financial trouble. We know this. Let's get it cleaned up once again. Do not allow anything to move forward until they agree to pay for the cleanup. Remediation. Mine compensation, bring back that 1/4 acre of old growth rainforest that was destroyed unnecessarily. Bring it back. Do the right thing. So as a community member, let's continue on this trend of listening to us community members first, developers second. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's exactly why we hold public hearings, is to listen to you. Are there any other members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to this bylaw? Yes, go ahead.
This is one of my favorite council meetings and public hearing. And I would love to ask for a taller microphone so I don't have to. Oh, it does. Oh, perfect. Thank you. More techie people in the audience than me. Iman Makarami again, 1796 Rainforest Drive, Lane. A couple of things. First of all, I'm happy to hear that we're going smaller than what used to be there. But if the anything related to the medical clinic or related to public health is eliminated from this project, then it's about the community, and the community need to be consulted, and their first benefits should be taken into consideration. I feel bad for the developer that they pursued a path that resulted in the eyesore that is there. Unfortunately, all of us take certain number of chances. If they didn't and couldn't fulfill that, the onus shouldn't be on the community to change the bylaws over and over again to accommodate the developer. The community should be accommodated, and their needs should be considered. We do not need a developer come in and build a complex that builds a long-term revenue for them. This is a community of people who live here, and I would like to ask the council to definitely stand on the community side and stay firm, especially on the no short-term rental and making it available for the community. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Mr. Cole?
Shorter microphone. I would like to just say something about the developer. It's very easy. I've had clients for 50 years that are developers, and they rightfully earn their reputation in some cases. But this is Nick Killens. He's a member of our community. His children go to school here. It's not like he's, from outer space. It's a real person struggling with a situation that he didn't create in that sense, in terms of a failed structure. So, and it would be great if it could be cleaned up right away, but there are legal aspects to all of this, insurance, there's lawyers involved, and nothing ever happens fast with that, as it seems. And that's unfortunate, but that's the case. So I'd hope you give Nick some consideration. He's a good man. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak that's here in person? Yes. Elke.
Hi, I wasn't planning on speaking on this proposal initially, but I just wanted to say, after a lot of what I've heard today, that yes, there are a lot of problems and have been a lot of problems with this particular property and development in the past couple of years, but I do believe that this proposal going forward, though I would rather not see short-term rentals, is a more positive direction to move in than what has been going on thus far. That's all.
Thank you. Elke, did you have your hand up? Changed your mind? You'll have one more chance. We're still on the second call here.
I'll go back up. Barbara Schramm, 1958 Bay Street. I just wanted to put forward this suggestion. I know this is not a design charade, but I know it's in the OCP that blank walls are to be avoided. And this seemed on the diagram that the end walls were featureless. And perhaps any proposal coming with no windows, no doors should have a mural attached to it or some camouflage rather than sheer white walls, which is what I read on the proposal. I also have a thought that the previous zoning before it was to be a medical center was a lot lower density. Just saying. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Elke, go ahead.
Elke Spindler, 1708 Rainforest Lane. First question, should the rezoning application even be considered if the insurance and the legalities behind the whole situation have not been resolved? because maybe after it's resolved, Nick might look at something else now, depending on how it goes. Also, Nick does not live in Ucluelet. He lives in Tofino. Sure, we're sister towns, but that is something to consider. I know if that happened to his home where rezoning was put on a property behind his place and all of a sudden it was cleared from corner lot to corner, like to property line, and took away your view and privacy, it would not be appreciated. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other hands raised, we'll still have a third call for speakers. Ms. Pelshad, are there any speakers on Zoom?
There is Todd. Evelina, I will allow you to speak. You may now speak.
Hey, Mayor and Council, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm calling in tonight to express opposition to this amendment and express great caution regarding the track record of clay plot construction and owner Nick Killens. I have a lot of respect for Mr. Cole and construction companies in this town. Outfits like Sitka and Saltwater do great work. I'd also like to thank Councillor Mafty for his clear and principled rationale for why covenants on this property should not be removed prior to this public hearing. I would encourage this council to advocate for this property to include commercial space that is equal or greater to the previous zoning requirement. Or please compel the owner to remediate the site and sell it at market value. I'd like to thank members of this community who have put forward alternate suggestions. Elke mentioned a great option of retaining a covenant to support healthcare workers with this housing. Stating that the healthcare center, in quotation marks, didn't materialize is gratuitous at best. A resident might assume this is where a healthcare center might exist if Clayoquot construction had not cut corners. I've heard many councillors in these chambers argue for the free market. The reality is that poorly planned projects fail in the free market. If this applicant cannot afford to complete a project with commercial spaces on the lower level, please compel the corporation to sell it or liquidate business assets to fund it. By asking the district to implement this amendment, the district would essentially be subsidizing a failing business, and I believe there are more purposeful and legitimate projects that the district could fund. In closing, I would encourage the council to investigate Clayoquot Construction's established pattern of business conduct. I live in a property constructed by Nick Killens and his company, and I won't get into the details, but there were evasive calls, a disappearance, and the word deleted with absolutely no paper trail and insistence of not completing work. This business owner has a track record of unethical business practices, and the council should consider that reputation. So all respect to those who have spoken, but this requires caution, and we don't need another eyesore sitting at that corner for 2 years. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your comments. Do we have any other speakers on Zoom?
No, Mayor.
And do we have any speakers calling in?
We do not.
And have we received any additional written public input?
No.
All right, this will be the third and final call. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to the bylaw? Ms. Gray.
Judy Gray. I'd just like to share a message that Nick has sent to Doug and I. Can you chime in that this, if this doesn't go through, we still have the ability to build the commercial building as it is. Nick has built some beautiful homes in Ucluelet. He built the units, or the 3/4 of the units at Rainforest Lane. In or not Rainforest Lane, St. Jake's Boulevard, Raincoast Commons, it's called, which is a thoughtful development where you're not sharing any common walls for these townhomes with separation in yards. He's built a number of beautiful homes in the community. He hired a contractor to do the work for that foundation. That foundation failed, not due to his work whatsoever. And he was out of the country at the time that that happened on a 2-year trip with his children for education. And it's probably why he didn't return calls, because he wasn't in the country. He was a very long way away. Anyway, he is a very nice builder. I've seen his work over and over and have no complaints about him. The building hasn't been taken down because of insurance and lawyers, not because of Nick not wanting it down. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Are there any other members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to this bylaw? Yes.
Yeah, Peter, 1708 Rainforest Lane. Anyways, I work in construction. Nick was one of my first customers, and I have to say, this is just my personal experience. I haven't seen him do anything willfully bad. And he's always been good to me, and he's always paid his bills, and he's been straightforward and honest. That's just my experience. But anyways, the only thing I have to say about this project is it should all be long-term housing of some kind, and it needs some architectural merit. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Are there any other members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to the bylaw? Seeing none, are there any speakers on Zoom?
No speakers.
And are there any speakers calling in? And have we received any new emails?
We have not.
Okay. I now declare the public hearing for District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1398, 2026 closed at 5:46. Does anybody need a little break? Yeah? Okay, let's do a 5-minute break.
You want to start your camera? Thank you.
All right, we're reconvening at 5:56. I now declare the public hearing for District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1401, 2026 open. This bylaw pertains to 1671 Cedar Road. Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives, will now provide a brief overview of the bylaw. After the Director of Planning speaks, the applicant will have an opportunity to address council, after which I will call 3 times for public input. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1401, 2026 is the subject of that zoning amendment bylaw would be 1671 Cedar Road, also known as Whiskey Landing or Phase 2 of Whiskey Landing. This emerged out of a multi-year conversation between the district and the property owner, and ultimately a legal disagreement on the interpretation of resort condo use and how it relates to the rest of the zoning parameters with respect to how many units could be used for short-term rental. Phase 1 of Whiskey Landing that was built some time ago has operated with flexibility between the different units between short-term and long-term. The recent legal opinions by the district suggest that the resort condo use has limitations on the density because you require a certain amount of property area for each unit. That interpretation limits the flexibility of the units to a maximum of 8 short-term units at any one given time for the Phase 2 property. The developer had proposed a 23-unit flexible use building to alternate at the owner's discretion between long-term and short-term use. The amendment bylaw before you would accommodate that and allow each unit to be used for either commercial tourist accommodation or residential use. The village square, or this property is located in the village square, and the OCP's policies do support mixed-use development, and it is designed as is intended as an area for higher intensity and higher densities of use. If council, once the hearing closes, council could consider an amendment bylaw, the adoption of third reading and adoption of the amendment bylaw. And as this particular matter does impact phase one of Whiskey Landing, it will not be dealt with here tonight, but we will be bringing forward amendment bylaws for council's consideration with respect to that as well, as this legal interpretation does impact phase one as well. We have connected with the strata owners on that. I just provide that as context if there's any questions around that, as we are dealing with that separately. Happy to answer any questions, but as with the other bylaws, the initial staff reports were included as part of the public hearing package, which is included in this agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Does council have any questions for staff? I feel like we've been dealing with this one for a few years. So we're now moving on to the applicant presentation section of the public hearing. Would the applicant or their representative like to address council? Ms. Ross?
There we go. Now we're on to it. As a district-led initiative, we haven't come with anything specific other than availability to answer questions. As many of you know, and I've worked closely in those discussions with you. I'm the named applicant on the project, but my background is more specifically in community development and relation in that component. We took this one on specifically for relieving a lot of the issues that have continued and have come up for the community as a whole in here this evening, and that you guys have the hard job of sitting there to respond to. Again, there's many ways that developers can support communities. Some of those are formal and others are informal. And in this case, I believe Azura has come to the front on being honest, direct, and working with the district the most we can over what has been a complicated process. So I'm here to answer any questions within that. But again, it's with the district on being the density and use.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Ross? Nope, I don't see any. All right, this is the first call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to address District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1401, 2026? Seeing none, Ms. Pelshad, are there any speakers on Zoom that wish to speak?
No, Mayor.
And are there any speakers calling in?
No.
And have we received any written input, including late items?
We have not.
All right, we'll do the second call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1401, 2026? Barb?
Barbara Schramm, 1958 Bay Street. There wasn't a lot of material that I could find in the council brief. I just wanted to say that in previous drawings, there was no waterfront pathway in front of this development. And I think the long-term vision on the OCP was a harborside trail. And I would just encourage council to make it a requirement that public access be allowed along the water's edge so it can eventually connect through to that vision on the OCP. Thanks.
Thank you. I believe there was a bit of a hiccup with regard to that. Did you want to speak to that? Okay, that'd be great. Thanks.
Hi, Barb. You're correct that some of the original OCPs have the waterfront access across there, and please, Tyler, correct me if any spots are need correction in this. It's that or access around in it. Now, the ownership across that waterfront is actually much trickier than it looks on paper, given who owns what sections along there. So as the private entity, Azura can't put the infrastructure in under the provincial requirements. Now, one of the things that was done in advance of the application was ensuring public access for everyone along the sidewalks in and around and across the waterfront for phase one. So right now, the phase one Whiskey Landing building has a series of sidewalks around it that are technically private land previously, where now that public access has been granted and is registered on all properties within that zone, ours and the phase one owners.
Thanks for your clarification. Are there any other members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to this bylaw? Yes, please.
Rachel Turner, 168 Fraser Lane. I believe that this is being put in so that it's changing the, I guess, the use from the 8 residential or 22 residential to and the 8 short-term rentals to being mixed, and anyone can be either or. I'm assuming in this community, most of that's going to go to short-term rental because that just is what happens, especially on waterfront. People love to rent out the short-term. I think there's been a lot of talk tonight about long-term rentals being really important to this community, and I would implore the council to continue to uphold that 8-unit short-term rental and the 22-unit long-term rental. I think that is a great opportunity for long-term members of the community and workforce to have waterfront housing, and it also provides the 8-term short-term rental. At this rate, I think it's about 30% short-term and 70% long-term, which I think is super beneficial for a community, especially in those summer months with the influx of tourists and also seasonal workers. So yeah, I think if there's been a lot of talk tonight about long-term rentals being really beneficial to this community, then I would implore you to uphold that. And I know there's been a lot of history around this lot, but yeah, I think it'd be beneficial. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Are there any other members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to this bylaw? Seeing none, Ms. Pelshad, are there any speakers on Zoom?
No, Mayor.
And are there any speakers calling in?
No.
And have we received any additional written input?
We have not.
All right, this will be the third and final call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to this bylaw? Seeing none, Ms. Pelshad, are there any speakers on Zoom?
No.
And are there any speakers calling in?
Neither.
And have we received any new emails?
We have not, Mayor.
Okay, I now declare the public hearing for District of Euclid zoning amendment bylaw number 1401, 2026 closed at 6:07 p.m. Now we will move on to bylaws. The first bylaw is titled District of Euclid Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1382, 2025, 560 Marine Drive. Third reading, and it will be presented by Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives.
Thank you, Mayor. You're well aware of the proposal before you. The applicant just presented on it, and the agenda package did contain the previous staff reports. Now that the public hearing is closed, on this, council can consider third reading, and as there's some amenities that would need to be secured through covenant, in particular the parkland. If council does wish to grant third reading before adoption, we would make sure that that covenant is secured and bring back adoption at a different date once that covenant is registered on title.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff from council? Okay, there is a recommendation. if anyone would like to move that for discussion.
Throw it out there.
Okay, Councillor Anderson.
I'll move that council give third reading of District of Ucluelet zoning amendment bylaw number 1382, 2025.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Further discussion. Councillor Noel?
I didn't second it. I thought maybe Anderson wanted to speak to it first. Since you seconded it, Mr. Anderson, I'll let you go first.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Obviously, this is the heart of our community here, and we're talking about Big Beach. I too, we allowed the first and second reading for this exactly for the community to speak, and I really want to thank everybody who showed up here today, all the letters and everything else. I always use the cheesy line here. I'm born and raised. I've seen the transition of the Big Beach area from the 80s till today, and I'm very thankful that across the street from a public access is parkland for the district that recently rezoned here in the last 12 months. And, so I'm not. I think it's overzealous here. I think there's parts of our community that are going to be changing. I think as much as you hear a lot of people talking, some of not accepting the change. There's certain areas I feel sacred, and I also want to acknowledge Ucluelet Thoughts letter that's in the package as well. And so therefore, I would be opposed to moving this to third reading and allowing it to stay with the original intent, which was a pub. We all know a 20,000 square foot pub isn't going to go, but to having 6 possible residential units in order to preserve the area for what it always has been an important spark park for our community. So there's my 2 bits on that, and thank you for allowing me to speak to it.
Thanks, Councillor Noel. Councillor Mafty?
I might have summed up my feelings when this first came before us. I don't support the proposal. I don't think it's appropriate. I think virtually everyone, whatever their perspective and their position, has echoed one sentiment consistently, which is that this is in a lot of ways the heart and soul of the community. I understand that piece of land was offered for sale. I understand it was purchased. I understand that somebody owns it. I understand that it's zoned for a particular use. I feel that if someone came before us and asked for a DP to build what it's zoned for, we'd be having a different discussion. But at this point, I don't think it's appropriate to consider rezoning it or to do anything to encourage, frankly, any development, but let alone a development that is the property's not even zoned for. So for me, this is a hard pass.
Thank you, Councillor Mafty. Councillor Anderson?
Oh, yeah. Whew. This one's definitely difficult for me. I see that what the original zoning was coming in was obviously an extremely large pub, which doesn't make sense. I think, as we said, I'm torn on this one because I start thinking, okay, well, if somebody bought that property with that it was commercially zoned and they're in that position, at what point are we doing a bit of a bait and switch? It is a fair market, and they bought it with this intention, and they bought it with the zoning that was in place. Had it been this massive pub, then obviously we would reject it right off. But because there is some semblance of give here with the 20% given back, especially with a sensitive area, and just the fact, I mean, I'm going to be the dark horse here and say, just the fact that there is some housing being offered here, and there's 12 small units, granted that they might not be affordable per se, but just by size alone, I think it does have some housing stock. So I'm going to be that person that says, okay, I know this isn't going to be a popular decision or a popular answer, but I think that any housing at this point, especially in this case, is a benefit. And we are first and foremost, our main our main business in this town is tourism, whether we like it or not. And there are days when Black Rock is full, and it's tough to get in. So there obviously is a demand. And I know this isn't the most popular opinion because of what we've heard tonight, but I'm probably on that side of somebody bought something and this was their intent. And to me, I think it could be worse. And I know that doesn't sound great, but I think you have a situation where you have a property that could have been, there's a lot of things that could have happened there. And I think there was some give on this one. And at the end of the day, when I see those units that are there for residential for long term, it tells me that they've made something, and there just isn't a lot happening right now. So I'm in favor of just having something out there that people can have as a long-term rental. And if that's the give and take in today's like economic climate, where it just isn't going to be feasible for many people to build anything unless they have a short-term aspect to it. I know that bites a lot of people and it hurts. But the truth is, we're a resort municipality. We do have short-term rentals that are important. And I think for the feasibility to give those 12 units to offer up as a long-term rental for folks, I have to land on that side.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Hoare.
Well, I have to say that those 12 units are micro units. I have seen the size of a 400 square foot apartment, and I would not consider that somewhere that I would want to live long term. I might live there for staff housing for a season, but yeah, I have a tough time. While I agree there is a housing component in this development, I'm sorry, I don't think it's what I would consider a viable long-term housing solution in this town. We have too many people that need housing, proper housing. I can't agree with the extent of this development on the property right next to Big Beach. Someone pointed out the Big Beach Park has actually got the Wild Pacific Trail Society has done stuff specifically for kids. It's encouraging for kids, and you want to put a pub on the corner. And don't get me wrong, I love a good cocktail. I love to sit in a pub. I'd love to sit and watch the sunset. I can do that at Black Rock. Yes, I know it gets busy. I just think this is too much for that space. And the letter from the Ucluelet makes me even more hesitant because there's gaps in the original archaeological work on the site. And I really wouldn't want to see a shovel in the ground without that being completed. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Hoare. I agree. I think it's too much for that particular parcel of land, and a lot of thought has been put into it, and there are some benefits for the community, but I just think it's too much. And the letter from the Ucluelet kind of tipped me in the other direction as well, because they are concerned about development down there. And so similar thoughts as you have. And I know the property's been purchased by someone and they have the right to build. I just don't think this is the right build for that property.
Yes. Trust Tyler question.
Sure, Councillor Anderson.
So that being said, is there a possibility of triggering an archaeological assessment? Because it sounds like we're all have concerns after the letter of referral from the Ucluelet. I'm just wondering if there's a possibility that we could have a field reconnaissance or a archaeological report done.
I think that would be on the agenda if it hasn't already been done.
There obviously has been work done in the past on that. If council, it's always in council's prerogative if they wish to have more information, refer it back to staff to work with the with the applicant, and that may or may not be something that they wish to complete and get back in front of council. But that would be one option. Of course, if that's new information coming back from council, another public hearing would need to be held. That would be one option for council.
Right. I think regardless of what happens, it's probably a good idea to do that.
Sure.
And just the current, the current sort of paradigm that we operate in is sometimes, there is archaeological impact assessments that are completed. But at the end of the day, often you don't know until you start digging. And when that happens, there is a provincial permitting process that does kick in immediately on that. That is the paradigm that may be shifting. We're learning more. We're trying to learn more every day with where the province is going with that. But at this time, that's the paradigm.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councillor Noel?
I'm getting used to this. Yeah, I hear you, Councillor Anderson, but I think if we all agreed or there was a consensus to move it forward, yes. But exploring that for the sake of being neighborly, I don't think that's our position here. I think our position is, are we positioned to rezone it the way it's been presented to us? And I'm not in favor of it. And I've been at that table for almost 12 years, off and on, and I've never seen a letter come from Ucluelet government ever. There have been delicate situations from Terrace Beach, building those units with a lot of working with Ucluelet with no objections, and so I've never seen one come before this council. So there again, trying to, for me, would feel like we're undermining the system by then, we want to get a second opinion. I don't think that's our position here. My personal decision is the town has clearly spoken. It's a heartbeat of our community, and trying to figure out where the archaeological assessments are. I don't think that's a prerogative that we need to explore, especially if it's defeated here tonight.
Yeah, I don't think Councillor Anderson was suggesting that we wait for that. You were just suggesting that it be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In any case.
Any further discussion?
If I can just briefly sort of zoom out, I'm reluctant to digress, but I do want to speak to the current zoning, and I think it's a bit of an anachronism. And if we sort of try to imagine what the community looked like at the time that this was zoned, a lot of this area would have looked completely different. And I think that the people who envisioned a pub probably thought, well, that would be of benefit to the community. And as a patron of the brewery and other pubs and restaurants and bistros, I think that the community needed that and does need that. But we have that, and what we've added in pubs and bistros and other such facilities, we've lost in terms of wild space. And I think that at the time that lot was zoned, Big Beach and the areas of coastline adjacent to Big Beach would have also looked quite different. So I don't want to sit here and bemoan development, and I don't want to sit here and be unrealistic about where we are today. But the point is that here we are today as a community that has establishments like this that we use and cherish. And what we have less and less of is Big Beach and areas like that. And I think that has led us to value and cherish those areas ever more and more intensely. And so I think that it would just be perhaps useful to take this opportunity to, I hope, reflect what we heard from a lot of the community, and just sort of share some information with the current owners of that land and anyone else who would have designs on it in the future. That I think the community has spoken with a nearly unanimous voice that what they really, really value is Big Beach as a wild space, as a natural space. And so whatever future proposals might come before this council or the next council or the next council, I think that anyone bringing a proposal forward should keep that in mind and just be aware of where the community's heart is right now.
Thanks, Councillor Mafty. And just looking at the report, the property was created as part of a larger comprehensive development in 2003, which is when that would have been zoned, in 2003. And you're right, the town looks much different than it did back then. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor? Any opposed? So that's defeated. So there is no point in making the second recommendation about the covenant, correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay, perfect. All right, the second bylaw is titled District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1396, 2026, Home Occupation to CD5C and CD5E. Third reading and adoption, and it will also be presented by Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives.
Thank you, Mayor. As the public hearing has closed on amendment bylaw number 1396, 2026, which the intention of that is to, as we talked about previously, address what we perceive to be as an administrative error in the drafting of the CD5C and CD5E zones to permit home occupation. This bylaw would simply amendment bylaw would simply add that in. As there's no conditions that need to be met between third reading and adoption, if council grants third reading, they could also immediately provide the final reading for adoption tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions for staff? Pretty straightforward. There are two recommendations, and I guess they should be moved separately. Yes.
I'll move the council give third reading of District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1396, 2026.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I will further move that council adopt District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1396, 2026.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. Hi, Malena.
No, that's Stella.
Oh, it's Stella. Oh, it's Stella. Hi, Stella. Yeah. The third bylaw item is titled District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1398, 2026, 604 Rainforest Drive. Third reading and adoption, and it will be presented by Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick summary here. Amendment bylaw number 1398, 2026 would permit 12 total units on 604 Rainforest Drive, 6 of which would be long-term residential, and 6 of which could be used for short-term accommodation. As there would be no conditions between third and adoption, council can consider third and adoption tonight. But staff would also very strongly recommend that the covenant be removed. It was attached to a previous proposal, and this would be deviation from that and would ultimately prove to be fairly clumsy in implementation and trying to deal with it. So we do strongly recommend its removal if council does proceed with the 2 readings of the bylaw tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions for Mr. Brown? All right, there are 3 recommendations. If anybody wants to read the first one for discussion.
I've got it.
Councillor Hoare.
I will move that District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number, oh God, 1398, 2026 be read a third time.
Second. Councillor Anderson seconds. Further discussion. Councillor Noel.
Yeah, thank you. It's been since 2007 since a mixed-use building has been permitted and or has been allowed or built in this community. The mortgage, I know that came up in the last recession because it took them forever to sell the units. And being a past owner of one, having my mother who lives in a building of mixed use, there's a few of them in the community. The Ridge, the Morridge, Whiskey Landing, what's there right now, and some at Water's Edge. Just because you're permitted to do nightly rental doesn't mean people do, but it definitely gives a wonderful opportunity and flexibility to those owners that own some of those units, whether they live there or where I know many owners in the mortgage, which I almost know all of them, have from time to time. It was very good mortgage helpers, whether they stayed at a friend's home and were able to do some nightly rentals. I heard clearly from and loudly from the neighbors in the area what they've been saying. I hear you. I'm not ignoring you, but I also feel that Rainforest Lane has one commercial property left on it, which is this one. There's going to be other commercial popping up in our community in other sectors. This is a beautiful residential area, estates, as we just went through another public hearing last week on it. And there's many nightly rentals in those residences, which are thriving. And I feel the use here is creative. Yes, some could say it's leaning towards a developer, but at the end of the day, there are affordable housing initiatives that are coming. They're not here before us in the applicant, but I do feel that it's reasonable ask, and I'm supportive of the what's been presented here on this third reading.
Thanks, Councillor Noel. Any further discussion? Councillor Hoare?
I know there's been some discussion about how affordable those 2 bedrooms and a den would be, but they would be like the birdhouses as we've discussed. And I'm all for there being places that people could actually live in, which I think they could when I look at the layout. I don't necessarily agree with STRs. We all know I'm not a big fan of those. I would love it if some of those smaller units maybe were set aside for Island Health. It would be great because they do need those spaces. We know that as well. But I think the amendment's kind of important, and it would give us some residential spot. I know the neighbors are not fond of what's there. The only way we can move some things forward is to deal with some of the legal stuff, is to get a development on the table that maybe can lead to the cleanup and lead to the regreening. I love the idea of getting rid of that loop road. We'll never get the trees back that went out, obviously, but we can't plant the trees 20 years ago, but we could plant the trees tomorrow.
Thanks, Councillor Hoare. Councillor Anderson? I'm mixing up the order. Yeah.
I'll jump in here. I think it was Elke that mentioned that, would it be a great idea to have housing for VHA, or have traveling specialists and physicians have a place. And I think Mr. Evelina also mentioned something about that. It sounds great. And God knows we've been working on this. There was a development that's sort of still in the hanging right now, and it was council's priority to get that to happen. And we were working adamantly in the background to be able to get space in those affordable units, 70% affordable. We're talking like well over 100. And we were working with Vancouver Island Health Authority to get spaces that we could have for people that are at the medical center, and potentially for if there was healthcare workers from Tofino that needed to come down, but also having ones that were specifically designed for rotational specialists. And that's something that is incredibly important. And somebody else also mentioned home care workers, and that's something that we're working on as well. And it's tough because I was hoping that by now we would be at the point where we could make that announcement, but there's been odd hiccups that have nothing to do with anything. It's literally things in the background that's beyond council's control, even the developer's control. And for us, it's been heartache after heartache. And now we see something like this come up, and you have people with these great suggestions that were supposed to be for somewhere else, because at the end of the day, that's probably not the best spot for supportive housing. It's a place that's going to be an income generator. Again, I think STRs, I know how we feel about them. We're at a whack with the numbers with long-term and short-term, but for a developer, especially someone that's had this misfortune, I think they need it for feasibility to be able to pull it off. And what they're offering with adding to the green space, reducing the footprint, increasing the footprint of the long-term rental in relation to the short-term rental, it does make sense to me. But I definitely want to address the fact that what people are saying about having affordable housing for everyone, but for home care workers and health authority workers and visiting specialists is something that we've been working on behind the scenes. I don't think a lot of people see that, and it's painful to not be able to have that announcement and then have it come up and say, hey, why don't we make this? Because yes, it would be. I just don't think economically it feasibly makes sense for this person to do this. I love that idea. I would love to be able to do that. And I wish that we were at a spot where we could make an announcement about it happening somewhere else, but we're not quite there yet. But yeah, so as it stands right now, I would support the project, just as I had kind of said before, that just having anything right now to get things moving, it's not affordable. We're working on that. But just to have any type of housing right now after having a lull in building for so long, it's just, to me, it makes sense. And if nothing else, it keeps us from looking at that eyesore of the failed concrete. Sorry, that's my long-winded answer on that.
Thanks, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Mafty?
I guess I'd make 3 points, and the first one is regarding the suggestions from the crowd that have been repeated by some of the councillors about how nice it would be to have one person or another stay in there. That's not our choice. That's not our prerogative. That's not our decision to make, and it's completely beyond our control. It's not up to council to decide who gets to rent a particular property. I think we can also be honest with ourselves and be realistic about how much those rents would be and who would be able to rent them. And I want to move on to the second point, which is to address this idea about, well, something would be better than nothing. We've got to get rid of the eyesore. It's not Mr. Killen's fault that there were legal issues. Council should not be the recourse of any individual who is looking to make good on their investment. It's not our role or responsibility to pull a developer's chestnuts out of the fire if they have bad luck, or if they misjudge the market, or if anything else happens to prevent them from building what they set out to build. I thought it was a huge mistake of the council of the day to approve this. It seemed ill-conceived. It seemed unlikely to come off. I hate to be right, but there's no doubt that I am. And I'm reminded of the saying that, a mistake you make twice is a choice. And I think it would be a pretty serious thing for this council to make a decision in the best interest of a developer. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to make decisions in the best interest of the community. We've heard from a lot of the community. We've received 30 pieces of correspondence from the community. It's a self-selected group, obviously, but the fact that we've heard overwhelming, and if I'm not mistaken, nearly unanimous opposition to this project makes me ask myself, if this council votes in favor of it, who are they supporting? They're not supporting the community, who have been loud and clear about what they want. They're supporting one individual, the developer that already asked for a variance, that already failed to deliver, and that has, to my mind, some pretty serious questions on the table about their ability to make good on this rezoning. So me personally, for ethical reasons, And for practical reasons, I cannot possibly see supporting this. I think it would be a huge mistake. I think that we need to be really realistic about what our responsibility as a council is. And it's not to just see something go up because we don't want to look at a failed concrete pour. Clean up the concrete, revert the lot back to the state that it was in. Like, that's business. Shit happens. It's not our responsibility to fix that problem. And it sets a very dangerous precedent if every developer who ever runs into trouble runs to council saying, well, actually, I'd like you guys to change the zoning once again so that I can still profit off of my investment. That's inappropriate, and I couldn't possibly support it.
Thanks, Councillor Mafty. And we have developers come to us over and over again saying those exact same words.
And if we vote in favor to support, what message does that send? That's a rhetorical question. I'm not asking you for an answer, but what message does that send?
Yeah, I think we heard loud and clear from the neighbors for sure, and even some that aren't direct neighbors that this is not the right thing for that property. I'm kind of torn because I would love to see that monstrosity torn down and start from scratch and provide some form of housing, but yeah, I think the mix is not quite right on this one for me personally. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. All right, there is a second recommendation. Councillor Hoare, do you want to continue on?
Just blowing up the font. Still can't focus quite right. I will move that council adopt District of Ucluelet zoning amendment bylaw number 1398 2026.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anderson seconds. Further discussion?
I'll just go on the record again, urging my fellow councillors to consider the responsibility that we have to represent the community versus whatever obligation we may perceive to support a developer. And I would ask my fellow councillors to take into consideration the overwhelming amount of correspondence that we received from the community about their wishes regarding this rezoning. And I would reiterate my position that I do not think that it falls under council's purview to make decisions in the interests of any one individual, be they a developer, be they a citizen, who comes to council asking for a rezoning to protect their investment.
Councillor Anderson?
And I think it sounds kind of idealistic to pose it that way. You're kind of saying that, hey, why don't we listen to the people that came and do what they say? And if you don't, then you're just listening to the developer and you're doing what they want. My question that I'd pose back to anyone would be, what else is going to go there? Like, what would make you happy? Like, someone owns that property and obviously they're going to remediate it. But some people are saying, well, they sell it. But if they sell it, what is going to go there that would please you? So
what it's zoned for.
Currently, that's a very large development because they got that increase in square footage on that rezoning before.
Yeah,
that's what they could currently build.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a covenant on that property now. It's very clear what came before council the first time, which was, oh, we're going to build a health center and we want all this other stuff on top of it to make it more palatable. And council voted for that, despite the fact that there was no agreement in place with VHA, despite the fact that there was little assurance that this was actually a viable development. So if that covenant remains on this property, and boy, am I glad that I fought removing it 2 months ago, then I think that sends, again, a very clear message to this developer or to any other developer. If someone wants to come back and build on that, they have to propose something that's reasonable and that's beneficial to the community, not beneficial to themselves. So I'm fine leaving it as it is. If someone wants to honor the covenant and put medical facilities in there, I'd be prepared to have that discussion, but that's not what we're talking about tonight.
So how are you going to do that? Like, you want to like I'm trying to get my head around this. We're a tourist based community. We're a resort municipality, and this is an extremely important part of like our economic survival out on the coast. Like this is but what I feel like what they've done is they've taken what, was obviously larger, and we can't force a dentist here. We can't like say, hey, we're going to shove a doctor down there and we'll just wait until someone comes along to volunteer to be a doctor down. Like I just think there's a property there and there's an opportunity here to have 6 long-term rentals up in the top. And yes, underneath there will be a smaller footprint, short-term rentals to make it viable for this person. But I you're saying it's not our job as counselors, but is it our job as counselors to tell people that, what they have to do with their lot, and say, hey, if it was a failed medical clinic and the medical clinic was built somewhere else, we've got an 11,000 square foot medical clinic on the way out of town right now. So like you're just waiting for another clinic. Like how many more people do you need to service to come in here? If there was someone that was proposing to do that, I would say yes. And that there was something you could put down there, I would say that. But I think it's like one in the hand, two in the bush. I'm just trying to get my head around what would you be happy with?
Well, let me answer your first question. I don't think that it's council's responsibility to force a dentist down anyone's throat. This is a covenant that the developer agreed to, that the developer suggested when they pitched the project to council. So this wasn't council saying it, it was the developer saying it. And I see that covenant today as a protection for us. And that's what covenants traditionally have always been, a mutual or even singular form of protection for one of two parties. So as long as there's a covenant, that prevents any development like the one being proposed today, which I do not think is in the best interest of the community. So if the current owner of the property wants to come back and say, look, I'm going to come at it differently. I've heard what the community has overwhelmingly told me, which is that the priorities are long-term rental, and I'm going to give you guys a proposal that meets those needs, then we can discuss removing the covenant. So that would be an appropriate outcome for me. As someone who is elected, or in this case, acclaimed, but ostensibly to represent the will of the community, when the community unanimously tells me what their will is, it's very difficult for me to imagine a scenario where I can say, you know what, I'm actually going to vote completely against that because it's my impression that, a couple of houses are actually going to tip the balance. I don't agree with that, and I don't think anyone that spoke or wrote to us today agrees with that. So I just can't wrap my head around what grounds I could possibly have to support this. And I'd like to hear if anyone feels that they want to support this, what benefit to the community do they see? And if your argument is, six rentals, I don't think that the juice is worth the squeeze in this case. I don't.
And I know you weren't on council when we rezoned this property for the medical clinic, but to be honest, we had worked for 10 years trying to get a substitute clinic for Dr. Marshall and her team. And we looked at, we did a feasibility study to build it here on district land. We looked at buying a building and retrofitting it. We spent so many hours trying to find a solution. And here we had a property owner that was willing to give us that solution at the time. And he took a chance because he ended up not winning the bid through VHA to build the medical clinic, but we had every hope in the world that he would win that bid. And we just didn't even conceive of anybody competing against him, but that it happened and it got built somewhere else, which is why that the covenant is still on there for that particular reason.
That's fine, but my point is that I don't think it's this council's responsibility to sort of say, hey man, I'm really sorry it didn't work out for you, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to sweeten the deal. We're going to give you a second rezoning, and we're going to make this worth your while because you're such a good guy. That's not how a council should operate.
Councillor Anderson.
I don't think that that's what we're saying. I think there was very purposely designed for the medical building, and then that design failed. They couldn't do it, and then so they've shifted gears, and now they want to give something that I think is at least somewhat useful for the community. And we need housing, and it's funny to me how often people say, we need long-term rental. Like we need long-term rental. We don't have enough housing, and we're tired of short-term rental. We want long-term, and now we're getting a trade-off here. Like I think we're getting something that's in that spot. And it's a really beautiful location. I don't think we're going to be able to put subsidized affordable housing in that location. I think this is a spot that I think it'll generate some tax revenue. I think that it's probably better than what could be there. And I know that doesn't sound great, but I think as far as what the size of the previous building and what we're getting now on this one, I don't see you getting, I don't know what you're waiting for. Like, did you just want to wait until a doctor decides to take over that bottom spot and then works with the proponent to say, hey, let's readdress this and we'll do like medical clinic underneath, even though there's an 11,000 square foot one up the road. Like, I don't know if that's what you want to wait for. Like, is that what you're trying to get at?
I'll keep it brief because I've made my views known and I respect everyone's time. What I would wait for, or what I would urge the next council to wait for, is either a proposal that can't be disputed because it meets the current zoning and covenant, or a proposal that requires a variance that has the support of the community. Anything that's going to require a variance is going to have to go to a public hearing. And if at that public hearing, the public speaks unanimously and says, yes, we collectively feel that this is in the best interest of the community, I'd be happy with that. I'm not happy with what I've heard today requiring me to vote against it. Like, I see one person who benefits and I see a whole bunch of people who have told us very clearly, we do not want this. So what I'm waiting for is either someone to follow the rules or someone to offer something that the community supports. And then I feel that I can represent the community and vote in favor and support what they want. So that's where I'm at. Like, it's not for me to, that's where I'm at.
Any further discussion? Councillor Hoare?
Just a comment that a lot of what was said earlier during the public hearing, and I can go back to my notes and tell you who said it too. A lot of it was they don't like what's there, the eyesore that's there, and they want that removed. It was less about the amendment than it was about removing the eyesore and removing what was there and not liking that all those trees came down. None of us liked that all those trees came down, and it'd be really great if some of them could go back up. But more of that discussion was actually about what is currently on that property, which has to be removed anyway, than it was about the amendment that's actually in front of us.
Yeah, I don't think that he is going to remove that structure that exists until he has something to build in its place, is what I gathered.
One point, one question. Number one, I agree that that was the gist of what we heard in the room today, but I think the correspondence we received tells a little bit of a different story. I understand that people talk and there's a bit of a script and a theme to those letters, but I think people did talk about the density, specifically the discussion that was had at the time to sort of trade, zoning for amenity. And I have a question for, is there any validity to the notion that council could compel the owner to clean up that site if they're not developing it? A sort of like, shit or get off the pot. If you're going to build something, build it. And if you're not, you have to tidy it up. Presumably, to go a step further, if there was an insurance claim against a faulty pour, which I totally agree is not the developer's fault, surely there must be compensation as part of that settlement to pay to clean up that site. Because I do agree that the owner shouldn't be, liable to clean up somebody else's mistake. But perhaps that's something that staff could enlighten us on.
There is mechanisms that are not through the rezoning process in which municipalities can require properties not to be unsightly, but there is a process with that, and often there is a cost with that where speaking more generally, if a municipality goes that route and the property owner does not clean it up, they often have to do it at their own expense. and then they try to reclaim that cost through property taxation. So it is an extensive process outside of the zoning process.
Thank you.
Any further discussion before we call the vote?
Can I say one thing?
Councillor Anderson?
So just what, yeah, it's good to bring that back around. So, we're just essentially, so you wouldn't agree to removing, to do this amendment isn't, we're not allowing this bill to go forward. We're just removing the covenant tonight. Am I correct on that? The amendment?
No.
Are we?
That's the third recommendation.
So he can go forward with his development permit, or that would still be coming after the fact.
This is a rezoning.
If I may, Mayor, the decision I believe that is on the table is adoption of the bylaw. So that would change the zoning to permit the 6 and 6 without the the follow-up motion that we would strongly recommend would be the removal of the covenant that was put on title through rezoning as a condition of approval through the previous rezoning. And I would be very blunt that if we were considering that today, if this was a fresh application, it would not be staff's recommendation to be so prescriptive with that covenant. And the reason why is it may mandate or require a use. The building would get built, doctor offices move, Island Health may move elsewhere, whatever the situation is, and you would be left with a situation where you have a built building, the requirements of the covenant now put that building in contradiction of the covenant, and you may not be able to find that particular use to fill that. So, I understand the intention of trying to secure certain types of uses, but there's a lot of risk that goes with that because medical clinics and doctors and all that move all the time. And so that would just beg coming back to with a covenant amendment. So we would look at securing that differently and maybe a little more comprehensive around the type of uses. But I just add that as additional context for the conversation.
Right. Thank you.
Did you have something, Councillor Hoare?
Oh, another spanner for the works. Is there not a requirement in our OCP for any development over 5 units to discuss affordable? And there is no reference to that in this particular development.
Mr. Brown?
The OCP does have provisions on trying to secure affordable housing. The OCP is a very high-level document with often a lot of policies that at times do contradict itself. So we do look at the land use designation and try to find general intent. But yes, the OCP does contain requirements for affordable housing, and this proposal does not. Is not proposing to secure any affordable housing.
Okay, seeing no further discussion.
One final quick question. I just want this to be clearly a clear answer on the record. So what you're saying is that if we vote in favor of this proposal, we're voting against our own provisions in the OCP.
Ultimately, I think that's a decision for council to decide, taken as a whole in all the OCP policies.
Thank you.
Councillor Noel?
Hey, thanks. And it's been wonderful to hear the open dialogue. I do want to flag that last comment though. Was that Councillor Hoare that brought that up regarding, developments are coming for us, and if there's a certain amount, if we're not abiding to something in the OCP regarding affordable housing, I just said I supported the third reading here, but I am not supportive of something that if we are suddenly in contravention and not supporting what in the OCP is. So if there's actual dialogue stating that after so many units, maybe I'll let you take the floor here in a moment, Mr. Brown, just to maybe enlighten me, because that's what's caught my attention here. If we're whether it's high level is what this is all about. And if that OCP is indicating that after so many units, whether it's 5 or 10, that there needs to be an affordable component, well, in this particular case, I would say that that would swing me a little bit here, or not a little bit, substantially, because when do we start to practice that good practice? And I think that we'd be practicing that now. Could you maybe just explain that to all of us regarding what the OCP says regarding what what Councillor Horde brought up?
Do you, Mayor, to the council? I would be quickly trying to find that if that is an interest to council and a full analysis of the OCP policies. I would recommend that be referred back to staff and we bring that forward. I would be doing my best to answer it quickly, but if council is wanting a very thorough response, I would recommend that.
If I may, Your Worship.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that would be swaying me. Like, honestly, I'm willing to push the envelope here, but I'm not willing to push against an OCP document that clearly states that that a certain amount of units need to accompany a certain percentage of affordable. As much as I'm a bit of like this to be on the edge of things, I'm not that guy that would overlook a document like that. So I don't know how. I'll leave it with you guys, but. Again, I wouldn't feel comfortable adopting that without having a bit more knowledge about that document and how it would actually affect this particular proposal. Everything else you guys said, I've agreed with, except all of Mr. Mafty's points. Again, I think that we need housing, but it can't be at. I'm not looking at the applicant here. I'm just looking at the fact that we need housing. I'm supportive of mixed-use units in the commercial unit, but I am not in any way willing to start to circumvent what we're trying to do in best policy. So, Mr. Chow, I'll need some help on there. I'm not in the room, but I would not be comfortable adopting it tonight because I would need a bit more information about what and that would sway my vote a little bit. And I hope I can get someone in the room to second me on that.
Well, you don't need a seconder. We've got a recommendation on the floor, a motion on the floor to adopt this zoning amendment, bylaw number 1398, 2026. So if there's no further discussion, we can take a vote on it. All those in favor?
If I may, though, two councillors have asked for clarification. With all due respect to Mr. Brown, I didn't get a yes or no answer or even an indication other than I'd have to look further into it, but I think you're right. And then Councillor Noel asked for clarification and there was no feedback. So I don't think that we should vote on this until we can answer this question.
Mr. Brown said to refer it back to staff, is what he said.
Can you clarify your position, Mr. Brown? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
No, it's on the spot. That's what we're here for. So policy 3.143, it says rezoning applications involving more than 5 dwelling units shall provide a statement describing the affordable housing components achieved by the proposal.
Thank you. I think that's pretty clear.
Okay, so we are voting on the second motion to adopt this zoning amendment bylaw.
Just one more. Now I'm a little bit confused. So sorry, Your Worship, but if that is our standard or OCP, then I start to question why you made it this far and whether it was an oversight or something like that. To me, I don't think it's optional. And if we defeat the adoption, question for Mr. Brown, where does that bring us? Does that mean this goes back to the beginning? I'd just like to understand a little bit more of what the implications are.
The adoption is defeated. So a couple of questions there. So just to be clear, policy 3.143 doesn't require a certain amount of affordable units, but it does say that a statement describing the affordable housing components achieved by the proposal. So, and if the second question there, if the bylaw is defeated on adoption, the bylaw would be dead and the applicant would need to submit a new application in that regard if they chose to do so.
Is that clear, Councillor Noel?
Yeah, no, it's good. I just just for a staff note, a side note, put on your parking lot. It probably would have saved a lot of heartache. I think there's good intent by everybody in the room here, even myself here pushing these things forward. trying to get housing. But again, we need to follow our 30,000 foot level here and ensuring that these people, the applicants, are at least following these things. I think the building looks good. I'm very thankful, Mr. Mafty, that you put your feet in the sand here tonight. It's a breath of fresh air for some of you speaking the way you have tonight. And because of this new information, I wouldn't be supporting the adoption.
Any other comments from staff or from council? Councillor Anderson?
Yeah, it's kind of a new spin on this right now that we're talking about. So it'll be interesting to hear what staff come back with. I mean, yeah. I mean, it does change things when we look at it in the light of that OCP policy. And I don't think any of us were really thinking about that except for Councillor Mafty.
Or Councillor.
Councillor Hoare. So we do that. So yeah, I think it requires a little more thought.
Okay, are we ready to take a vote? Okay, all those in favor? Wow. Any opposed? That's defeated. All right, so we'll leave that in staff's hands to figure out what the next steps are with that.
Sort of logistical question. Does defeating the second recommendation in motion preclude even voting on the third, which means that the covenant stays in place, or do we also need to vote on that again?
I would assume we don't need to vote on the third recommendation because the bylaw's been defeated.
If I may, Mayor, the original intention, even with when it was brought forward at the previous time, was that covenant would only be removed contingent upon the zoning being adopted.
Yeah, so we don't need to vote on that. All right. The fourth and final bylaw item is titled District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1401, 2026, 1671 Cedar Road, third reading and adoption, and it will be presented by Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives.
Thank you, Mayor. You're all very familiar with this proposal. At the end of the day, if the zoning is approved, it would remove the disagreement on interpretation of the resort condo use and allow the submitted 23 unit proposal for all the units to be used either for long-term or short-term rentals. As noted in my remarks earlier, this is the situation with phase one of Whiskey Landing, and we will be bringing forward a separate zoning amendment for council's consideration with regard to phase one. The OCP context on this one is the Village Square designation supports commercial use, it supports mixed use development, it supports short-term rentals, and it supports long-term residential. So the policy context in staff's opinion does support this one. And if the council does, if council does grant a third reading, as there's no conditions, they could also consider adoption tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, there are two recommendations that should be read separately. Councillor Anderson.
I will move that District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1401, 2026 be read a third time.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in.
Oh, sorry. I thought Councillor Noel was going to speak.
No.
I'm going to very briefly comment here. I hate to be a stick in the mud. Vaughn, you've got your pitchfork sharpened, I hope. I feel like if there was ever an appropriate place to have short-term rentals, this would probably be it. Time and again, year after year, at least myself and certainly at least one of the other councillors has requested a more fulsome discussion and investigation of how many short-term rental units we would be committed to creating or allowing, what proportion of total dwellings that would represent, specifically so that we could make informed decisions to support appropriate short-term rentals and deny inappropriate ones. And lacking any kind of framework, lacking any kind of clarity, I'm at a point where I feel like I'd be much more inclined to uphold the original designation than to agree to just create more short-term rentals without a clear understanding of how that fits into the big picture. And I'm just putting that out there because this is exactly the type of situation that I was imagining when I kept thinking, boy, and saying we should really come up with a framework so that we can make informed decisions, so that we can balance the housing needs of the community. So I'm all in favor of all of those units being filled, but I think the split in the initial zoning is fine by me. And my concern is that if we allow them to be either or, they're not going to be either or. They're all going to be, or the majority of them are going to be short term. And that becomes a little bit problematic for me because it doesn't strike the balance that we're looking for.
Any further discussion? Councillor Anderson?
Oh, yeah, I think we've batted this one around a few times, and then there was definitely some misinterpretation or there was misunderstandings, I think, with a few different parts to this. And I think we were, at one point, we were kind of chasing a boogeyman that wasn't real. But I think it was when we rebooted this, I think it was Councillor Noel that kind of pulled the cover back on this one for me. And he said, if there's a place that makes sense, that as Councillor Matthew just said, if there's a place that makes sense for short-term rental to sort of showcase the downtown area, the most walkable, it just makes sense. You're kind of in the heart of Ucluelet. And I just don't know if that, in light of not having a lot of affordable housing right now, I hope we do. I think we do. I think we will. But right now, I just don't want to make a decision on something that is to me is pretty blatantly a short-term rental type place. You're right by there's the fish processing plant right next door. I don't know if people would want to live long-term there, but you are embedded in the heart of the community when you do that. I think it's a great place to have a short-term rental. I realize that argument with the current state of things is not in vogue, but at the same time, I think we have to put things in the right place. And I think that makes sense to have that there. I know it's a tough argument in the climate that we're in right now, and I hope we're changing that. But to me, it makes sense to have that as a place for people to come here and experience our town. That's a spot to put it in it. And it just as both of you had said, that just it makes sense as a spot to have that.
Yeah, I agree. The location is what makes it make sense for me as well. Right downtown. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Do you want to continue, Councillor Hoare, with the second recommendation? Oh, no, it was Councillor Anderson, sorry.
Unless you want to do it.
No, go ahead.
All right, there we go. I will further move the council adopt District of Ucluelet zoning amendment bylaw number 1401, 2026.
I will second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. All right. We're at that point. I will move that the March 24th, 2026 special council meeting and public hearing be adjourned at 7:12.